Rebecca.
Chapter 3. The Love Fever. I lived the following events in a feverish haze. No matter what the poets may say about it, love is a kind of sickness that strikes you and renders you fragile. I found myself burning with strong emotions, bouncing from total happiness to total misery, not really aware of anything except Maxim de Winter's presence. I have forgotten the places we went to, but not the excitement I left nor its intensity. I sat in his car that afternoon, soaring on a cloud of unreality over the Bay of Monte Carlo. The boats and yachts were carelessly dancing while my laughter was answering Maxim's and the wind beating hard on our faces. I had become happily mindless about my old-fashioned clothes, my plain self. I was a 21-year-old girl experiencing her first love. Time flew away with alarming rapidity as I sat beside next to Maxim de Winter, watching in panic the clock of his car speeding to the dreaded moment when I would have to part with him. The following day, I would race down the stairs to meet him again, unable to wait for the lift, too slow for me. I am glad this love fever can only happen once. That afternoon, he drove up a steep winding mountain road to a dead end. He stopped the car on the edge, where the sea lay deep below, roaring at our very feet. He helped me out and stood there, gazing at the distance while I was shivering from both cold and fear. "Have you ever been here before?" I asked. There was a strange look on his face, a lost look that turned him into a total stranger, beyond my reach. It was many years ago. He smiled. Suddenly, he was himself again. There were other drives, other conversations and hundreds of stairs that I flew down in happiness to find him waiting for me in his car. He didn't talk about himself. He talked instead about his sister whom he rarely saw in Manderley. He described the place itself with its gardens and sea and his secret place, a little valley. There was a book of poems in the glove compartment of the car. "You can keep it if you want," he said. I left the car, gripping to the book, happy to hold something that belonged to him. Instead of going up to the room, I stayed in the lounge, trying to delay the time when I would have to face Mrs. Van Hopper's anger. My head was still with Maxim de Winter, spinning with all the unanswered questions I had not dared ask him. If he loved Manderley so much, what was he doing in Monte Carlo? I opened the book. The name Rebecca jumped to my eyes, clearly written in black ink in the first page. I read, "Max, from Rebecca, the 17th of May. I remembered then what Mrs. Van Hopper had told me about Maxim's wife. I closed the book and ran up the stairs unhappily to Mrs. Van Hopper's room. She opened her fire as soon as she saw me. "You are wasting your time, doing nothing worthwhile, not even drawing. I order things, and you forget to bring them. You have become lazy now that I am too sick to watch you." What could I say? Could I say to her that ever since her sickness, I had been spending my days with Maxim de Winter, driving with him and sharing his meals? Could I tell her that there was place for no one else in my life? She was speaking to me, but her words made no sense as my head was still ringing with the conversation I had just had with him, and the sentimental turn the events had taken. Why can't I keep this moment forever, like a rare perfume in a bottle that I could open and smell whenever I feel the need to? I had said regretfully before leaving him. He laughed. I felt stupid and naive. I wish I were older and more sophisticated, like the women you know, wearing beautiful clothes with matching jewelry. I complained. "You would not be with me right now if you were one of them," he said coldly. "Then explain to me why you asked me to go out with you." "I am uninteresting, inexperienced, and too young. I have told you everything, but you haven't. I know nothing about you except that you are the well-known owner of Manderley whose well-known wife is dead." I had said the words I shouldn't have said, wife and dead, the words that troubled and hurt, the words that would make him never want to see me again. He stopped the car. "You want to keep your memories, whereas I don't. Unlike you, my memories are unhappy. I want to forget all that happened to me a year ago and before. I ask you to drive with me because I enjoy your company. If you don't believe that I like you, you can leave the car. The tears ran down my face. Suddenly, he took my hand and kissed it. Then he started wiping the tears from my face with his handkerchief, his arms around me. I don't know how to speak to someone like you. But there is a start to everything. First, start calling me Maxim. I was happy again. Now I could face Mrs. Van Hoppers, whose harsh words could not reach me. She had been in bed for 10 days now and she had become more ill-tempered than ever. I played cards with her, not minding her. What mattered was that he had kissed me. Does Maxim de Winter still have his lunch here? She inquired. They have told her, I thought. The waiters must have seen us. What shall I answer? I think so, I said, simulating indifference. I saw him in the restaurant. He is such a good-looking man. I never saw his wife, but people say she was strikingly beautiful. And clever, too. Everyone says he adored her. I did not answer. I was thinking about beautiful, clever Rebecca, whom he adored. He asked me to call him Maxim. Rebecca called him Max. Her book was with me. He had given it to me. Her handwriting was still speaking, breathing life into her words. I spent a sleepless night, thinking of all the words she must have written to him and called him. The following evening, Mrs. Van Hopper decided to leave. Monte Carlo has made me sick. I am going to New York with my daughter. You are coming with us, of course. Leaving Monte Carlo and Maxim. My unhappiness must have been written on my face. She couldn't help noticing it. I thought you would be thrilled to go to New York. How strange you are. I have started liking Monte Carlo, was all I could find to say. Well, you will start liking New York, too. That evening she spent it phoning her friends to tell them how bored she was at Monte Carlo. She wanted everyone to know she was leaving, displeased. I locked myself in the bathroom so that she wouldn't see me crying. I could only think of the train, then the ship, carrying me distances away from Maxim. How and where will I be able to say goodbye to him now that she had recovered? She would be with me in the restaurant and I would speak to him like a stranger. It was the end of everything. The next morning, we were fully packed. Go down to the reception and get busy with the arrangements to be made. But instead of heading to the reception desk, I walked to Maxim's room, boldly. I knocked on his door. Come in, he shouted. I pushed the door. He was having breakfast in his sitting room. My self-confidence left me then. What's wrong? He asked. I have come to say goodbye. He looked at me thoughtfully for a while. I left in total fool. Mrs. Van Hopper has decided to catch tomorrow's ship for New York with her daughter. I'd hate to go with them, I explained. Sit down, he ordered, which I did, as my shaking knees could barely hold me. Have a cup of coffee. I can't. I have already been absent too long. It doesn't matter. We have to talk seriously. He surrounded me in his special tender look, which stirred a storm of emotions within me. Mrs. Van Hopper is going to New York and I am going back to Manderley. Who do you prefer to back with? Please, don't joke about these things with me, I pleaded. I am not joking. Choose between Mrs. Van Hopper and me. I didn't understand. Do you want me to be your secretary? No, little fool. I am asking you to be my wife. You can't marry me. I am not suitable for Manderley. What do you know about Manderley? Now, answer me, are you going to be my wife or not? I sat there, staring at nothing, speechless. I thought you loved me. But it seems the idea of marrying me doesn't appeal to you. But I do love you. I do. I have been crying all night, thinking I would never see you again. I am 42. Aren't you afraid? That's a bit too old for you. No. I don't like young men, I decided that morning. One day, I'll remind you of these very words, young girl. It's such a pity you will have to grow up and change, he said, kissing me. We will have a quiet wedding. We'll first go to Venice on our honeymoon, and then we will go to Mandalay when it is springtime, he promised. Suddenly, I believed him. It was all evident. He did love me. He was going to take me to Mandalay. Go and tell Mrs. Van Hopper. Or would you rather I do? He asked with a spark of amusement in his eyes. You tell her, I begged. She is going to be very angry with me. We walked to my employer's room together, hand in hand. What kept you so long? She shouted. Then she stopped, startled, when she saw Maxim. I left him with her and hid in my room. I am afraid it's all my fault, I heard Maxim say to her. I was wondering what kind of words he would tell her. I had cried and sworn to him that I loved him, which he had guessed it anyway. Would he speak to Mrs. Van Hopper about his love for me, or just marriage plans? Perhaps he would explain to her that he couldn't love me after Rebecca, that he, too, needed a companion. He soon appeared at my door. She was too surprised at first to be able to speak. Don't worry about anything. I'll take care of it all. And don't invite her to the wedding. He left hurriedly, smiling. Well, you certainly deceived me with your innocent ways. Who would have ever guessed how shrewd you were? Tell me, how did you manage to make him want to marry a girl like you? Said Mrs. Van Hopper. She had an unpleasant look in her eyes. I think you are making a big mistake. You will find it very difficult to look after Mandalay. She predicted. No, she couldn't spoil my happiness. I was going to be Mrs. De Winter. Nobody could stop me. Of course, you know why he's going to marry you. He is very lonely. He can't live at Mandalay without Rebecca. As soon as I was alone, I took the scissors and cut the first page of the book. I struck a match and set fire to it. I watched the capital R being eaten up with the rest of the letters until they disappeared in smoke. It made me feel much better.